I hadn't stood beside Niagara Falls since the summer of '98, when Dad lifted me up to the Maid of the Mist rail and shouted, louder than the roar, that the cascade sounded like a city breathing. Clifton Hill's neon now bled across the bridge. The observation deck cycled corporate gradients instead of static floodlights, yet the water didn't care. My phone still clung to conference Wi-Fi. Curiosity shoved nostalgia aside and opened the registration portal. 7 slots were gone. I grabbed the last one and turned the rental south to find coffee until dusk. He cited magnetic interference from century-old cabling. The Cleveland husband bristled, but relented when Mason promised free professional footage emailed by morning. The river's bass thunder pressed ribs like subwoofers. Mason spun a quick safety brief. No rail hopping, stay line of sight, and ushered us through a rusted portal cut into the cliff. Flashing blue guides hugged limestone walls. Shallow water pooled around our ankles, lukewarm and gritty. The overhead vault widened until a cathedral of stone swallowed the LED glow, and the gorge noise faded to the hiss of distant faucets. A second staffer short, solid, Silent stacked the pouches in a pelican case and bumped fists with Mason before the door shut. The blast door had swung shut again, now padlocked with a fresh nickel shackle. Dad used to point out those grates from top trails, the old escape shafts. I herded the group to form a human pyramid, muralist kneeling, Cleveland guy boosting me onto the first rung. Rust flaked like pepper. Halfway up, floodlights sheared off again. A spotlight snapped on below, aimed upward. Cleveland man helped his wife climb. Podcaster followed, then muralist. The crawl notched them one at a time while Prodman's boots clanged below, tasers sparking at shadows he couldn't see. Mason, the slicker guide, was arrested near a loading dock. Duffel bag stuffed with wallets and a laptop running RFID cloning software disguised as the scanner. The state tourism site now warns, no underground tours are authorized. Any invitation is fraudulent. My dad's Polaroid hangs over my desk again, he and younger me soaked, grinning. Next to it sits the cracked LED wristband, a caution light in miniature. I've learned nostalgia trips run best with both eyes open and all zippers locked. Because sometimes the echo under childhood landmarks isn't memory calling you home. It's a con tuned perfectly to your favorite frequency. The silent accomplice vanished through a drainage portal, but dropped a helmet cam that documented their routine over 3 prior weekends. Lure small groups. Kill the lights, strip valuables during the scripted blackout, ferry the hull through a service shaft to a boat waiting downstream. The Keeper legend, they later admitted, had been planted months earlier via TikTok clips of staged lantern flashes shot inside the ruins. In its circle stood a new figure taller than Mason, real shoulders under the hooded coat, lantern glow flicking across a full-face respirator. In his right hand buzzed a cattle prod. Blue arcs danced. The podcaster cursed. One backpacker found her camera bag unzipped, mirrorless body missing. We sloshed to the door. Nobody answered our pounding except a dull siren pulse. Wristbands on every arm suddenly blinked red once per second. Generator hall, he said. Voice calm as podcast narration. He spun a crank on the console. A wind-up siren geared down to a slow heartbeat pulse. Then absolutely every bulb died. Legend says a caretaker, the Whirlpool Keeper, tuned his pocket watch to the turbines down here. She hurled her LED wristband past him into the water. The impact sent ripples. The prodman's gaze followed the splash. That fragment of attention was all I needed. I shoved upward. Snapped the Greek screws with a multi-tool I'd clipped under my cuff, and squirmed through the vent. A chill skimmed the water and licked my shins. Something, maybe a cart, rattled across metal plates behind me, followed by the watery thump of a footstep. The Cleveland wife whispered, but her voice chopped off mid-sentence, like a mic cable yanked. We spilled onto a moonwash service road behind the aquarium. Cell service breathed back. Phones were gone, yet a Ranger Jeep idled 30 yards off. A night officer leaned out, confused as we sprinted, waving glowing wristbands. I yelled robbery. He radioed State Park Police. He vanished the night the plant collapsed in 56. People claim his lantern still flickers when the tunnels echo a perfect 40 hertz tone. You'll feel it. He shouldered the door inward. Hinges shrieked. Inside, a football field-sized chamber yawned, floor flooded mid-calf. In its center stood a corroded console draped with glow sticks, and beside it, a life-sized mannequin wore a hooded oilskin and held a brass lantern. The car descended 180 feet. Unlike the daytime hum I remembered, the winch tonight sounded padded, muffled. 5 Olympian swimming pools per second still erased conversation. I worked my shot list until camera batteries dipped, then drifted along the overlook for one last angle. That was when a wet, midnight green flyer pinwheeled against my shin. Embossed on its face was a white spiral, clearly the Niagara Whirlpool from above and below. Crisp serif text promised an undercurrent walk. A forgotten power tunnel experience, free for one night only. The meetup site was the glass elevator that drops tourists to the Sholkoff ruins on the gorge floor. Start time 7 sharp, group limited to 8. A smaller line urged readers to follow the keeper. He died 2 winters later. Mom sold the minivan, and the place turned into a half-remembered postcard I never opened again. 27 years on, a UX research conference dropped me in Buffalo with a rental car, half a Saturday to kill. At the elevator queue, I counted 6 other arrivals. 2 Erasmus backpackers with mirrorless rigs. A Cleveland retiree couple, a solo true crime podcaster in Doc Martens, and a Brooklyn muralist lugging oil pastels. At 6:59, a guide materialized, late 20s, lean, wearing a charcoal slicker and a silver hard hat whose lamp was swapped for a stylized lantern emblem. A zip tag on his chest spelled Mason, undercurrent crew. He scanned each digital wristband with a black reader no bigger than a vape pen. Every chirp unlocked the turnstile, and the original Polaroid of Dad's grin tucked next to my passport. A single 90-minute detour felt safe enough. Snap sunrise. Buy a fridge magnet, head back before the keynote rehearsal. Nothing more dangerous than goosebumps. The American side had metastasized into LED logos and brutalist ticket plazas. I knew the ruins only as fenced concrete ribs below the rim trail. Dad had called them Niagara's buried engine. September sun fell fast behind Goat Island trees, leaving mist that refracted carnival LEDs into bruise-colored halos. Inside the elevator, he collected our phones, smartwatches, and car fobs into gray Faraday pouches. Sealing them with tamper tape, we stepped onto a sand-slick walkway lit by waist-high LEDs. Mason pointed at a blast door scarred by grinder marks. The lighting dropped to campfire dim. Mason encouraged us to fan out and listen for the keeper. I've worked haunted house sound gigs. This darkness felt engineered. No exit signs, no watch backlights, just breath and black. When lights were lit, Mason and the mannequin were gone. I scanned the room. High on the west wall, an iron service ladder climbed to a vent grate. "He'll only poke if you rush," he said, voice muffled but steady. "Toss down the wristbands, nobody gets wet." Backpacker girl trembled, but I saw anger in Cleveland wife's squint. A 2-foot crawl space led to a stairwell lit faint amber by a broken emergency strip. I yelled directions down. Up the stairwell, we found a maintenance hatch, chained but fragile. Neuralist tripod leg pried it. Response units combed the tunnels within 15 minutes. The Pelican case surfaced behind a utility shack, emptied of cash and SD cards. Park management poured quickset concrete into the side corridors, welded new gates, and posted rangers at both ends of the gorge switchback. I hadn't set eyes on the Statue of Liberty since a fourth grade field trip, back when my dad hauled a disposable Kodak and told me every copper rivet glowed green because freedom aged well. After 9/11s, he stopped bringing us into the city. Ferry rides felt risky, crowds felt worse, and life tilted elsewhere. 23 years later, a UX workshop pulled me to Lower Manhattan, and free afternoon sunlight shoved nostalgia into gear. I bought a standby ticket for the last Liberty Island ferry, reasoning I'd snap golden hour shots and still make the PATH train before rush. Battery Park had shifted airport-style security tents, ticket kiosks that printed multilingual maps, buskers looping Broadway ballads on Bluetooth amps I tried to ignore. The ferry horn sounded the same. Sea wind tasted of diesel and salt. Gulls cackled over pretzel crumbs. Pedestal stairs are tight. Less snag, less trouble. The French tourist balked, but Lou's radio crackled ranger chatter and eased nerves. My old flip phone hardly mattered. We placed bags into the chest. Lou slid a hasp, pocketed the key. Lou guided us along decking until a locked grate blocked the path. He fiddled an old key, cursed, then said we'd double back to reach the torch ladder from another splice. But as we turned, the grate slammed behind, bolts shooting. One bolt sheared with a metallic sigh. Another strained. Knitcap swung head. Hands high, knife glinted. I kicked, lantern glass busted. Sparks glowed. The sudden dark jolted attackers and victims alike. A second man stepped from shadow clean-shaven, navy knitcap work gloves. We found ourselves in a storage corridor lined with wooden crates, stamped National Park Service 1957. No exit, just a grilled vent dripping faint sodium light. We spilled onto asphalt, startling a janitor who radioed security with admirable speed. Knitcap was a seasonal custodian owed unpaid wages. Their weapons, tools swiped from carpentry shed, padlock from surplus bin. Nothing high-tech, just nerve and timing. And announced that no Pedestal tour starts after 5 p.m. Souvenir stands. Now sell brass lantern replicas, $22 a pop, batteries included. But I kept the cracked original suit and all. It sits by Dad's faded Kodak on my shelf. When the bulb inside flickers against my sleepless walls, I remember the echo of boots on cast iron and how nostalgia almost soldered me to a clever low-tech trap. Next detour, I'll keep wallet zipped, hands free, and eyes sharp for anything that's too exclusive, too last minute, and too ready with a lock that only turns one way. Within minutes, 2 uniformed rangers escorted us to a patrol office, patched my arm, and logged statements. Island police canvassed maintenance deck. Found Lou and Knitcap zip-tied by an unknown hand. They'd tried prying hatch, but lantern shards split palms. Bags in the wheeled chest were discovered on a staff skiff tied beneath a service ladder escape plan foiled by quick callouts. Yankee's husband tested bent. Screws long rusted. Nikon man used broken lens barrel as lever. Bent plate clanged free to reveal shaft wide enough for shoulders. Distant, outside chatter floated up tourists finishing last ferry queue. Cool void yawned. I yelled for everyone to duck through. Chaos turned cooperative. Yankee's wife crawled first, screaming husband's name. Nikon man followed, cradling busted camera like infant. College girls squeezed after. I waited, feet braced. He carried a carpentry mallet and a length of nylon rope. I dived into alcove dusty, head height, ending at another narrow stair. We scrambled. I dragged hatch back, wedging broken lantern across frame. I climbed to the top deck, found the skyline still looked like a sticker book, new glass towers pasted beside limestone elders. Nick Cap pulled a folding knife long as a carpenter's pencil. The Nikon guy lifted camera like a shield. Nick Cap cracked him across knuckles with the mallet. Camera hit metal grate, lens popping free. Follow close, no rails beyond workshop. He opened the maintenance door, revealing a spiral of cast iron stairs dimly lit by vents. Lou quieted us with a palm. From somewhere above, mechanized clanks echoed, the museum's freight lift settling for the night. He said the deck we stood on dated to 1886, used for night watchmen who rang bells if torches sputtered. Listen, hard. Some nights you still hear the call chain, he half joked. I hugged lantern, mind sprinting. Dad's old trivia surfaced. Beneath this deck, the pedestal walls hollow into small alcoves that once stored kerosene. Maybe shelter. I spotted a rusted hatch 3 yards left half size, bolted but breathing air along seam. The air smelled of warm copper and museum wax. When Lady Liberty finally filled the bow rail, I caught myself grinning stupidly into the spray. It sounded unofficial yet oddly specific. I checked my watch 18:05, sun dipping. A ranger might confirm if it was real. A stocky man in a tan work coat leaned there, clipboard tucked under elbow. His stitch name patch read LOU Facilities. He eyed the card in my fingers, nodded once, then beckoned. 7 others waited inside the arch. 2 Brooklyn College girls with instant cameras. A middle-aged couple in Yankees jerseys, a lone French tourist, and a grizzled guy lugging a Nikon that could club fish. Lou shut the gate behind me and hooked the padlock. Instead of asking, I followed the arrow. On the island, I drifted under pedestal shadows, comparing memory to angles. Rangers corralled day trippers toward museum doors, but the line snaked an hour deep. I resigned to rim shots only. That's when the laminated card fluttered against the fence near the staff gate. Dark green plastic, credit card weight, embossed with the torch icon and 3 gold betters. VIP on the back. Plain text. Pedestal Lantern Walk. Sunset only. Limited 8 guests. Meet 1830 at Maintenance Arch. No QR code, no website, just those words and a pencil arrow. A narrow service lane curled behind the visitor elevators toward a weather-scarred stone arch. Phones off. Rucksacks stay here, he said, pointing to a wheeled tool chest. He handed each of us a brass-handled lantern battery tea light inside heavy enough to feel genuine. We climbed 3 flights before stepping onto a narrow maintenance deck that circled the pedestal's inner wall. The girls giggled. Yankee's wife shivered. Wind snaked through vent slits, fluttering flame shapes in our lanterns. Lou's voice flattened. Change of plan. You hand over rings, watches, wallets. Quiet means quick. Panic swelled. Yankee's husband lunged. Lou shoved him into railing, while Nick Cap forced college girls to empty pockets. I knelt as if tying shoe, slid lantern base under hatch lip, leverage weight. I threw shoulder at hatch. Bolts snapped. Panel fell inward with echo. Nick Cap lunged. Knife/sleeve, slicing skin, but shallow. I rammed hatch door into his shin. Mallet fell. Lou cursed, fumbled flashlight. Concrete steps spiraled down pitch dark. We belly crawled, palms squeaking. The shaft opened behind a shrub near the gift shop dumpsters. Turns out Lou had been fired 6 months earlier for stealing concession stock. He'd commandeered an old uniform and lurked until after-hours security shifted cameras to ferry docks. Island management welded the maintenance door, installed motion sensors along interdeck. Yellowstone's upper geyser basin was my childhood backyard. Mom worked concessions at Old Faithful Inn, and every summer break I roamed the boardwalks with a plastic ranger badge while she restocked Huckleberry Jam. The south entrance had just reopened. Snowmelt rimmed the Madison like broken meringue. By 4:30, I stood on the same overlook Dad had hoisted me onto at age 9, shocked by how familiar the geyser's pulse still sounded like a basement boiler gone berserk. The inn shingles had fresh stain, and the new visitor center poked glass angles at the timber skyline, yet the basin itself remained steam and silence. The routine stamped itself into muscle memory. Sulfur sting, bleached bobby pins, crunching under sneakers. Tourists counting down to the moment the cone hissed and a white column punched sky. At 19:05, I tucked phone and wallet into my camera sling, zipped it tight, and followed syrupy lodge light around the maintenance yard. The basin felt deserted save for distant cliques of tourists retreating to hot cocoa. He told a story I'd never heard. Before modern instruments, rangers listened for the quiet second. A single heartbeat of absolute hush preceding big eruptions. Legend claimed an old caretaker called the Keeper of Stillwater disappeared during one such lull in 1932, leaving only a tin whistle on the boardwalk. Jeff unlocked a knee-high gate labeled service only and guided us onto a narrow catwalk, bubbling runoff channels. The path forked. Left dipped toward fumaroles lit faintly by red LEDs, right into unlit woods. I called his name, wine swallowed it. Seattle couple suggested turning back, but the gate behind us now hung a new chain. Woman screamed, tried to run. Second figure tripped her, zip-tied wrists. Cart person rifled pockets, slicing tags from Arcturix gear. They worked with surgical calm, maybe 30 seconds. Footsteps receded toward darker woods. I shrank behind a steam vent, adrenaline spiking. Bear spray drift mixed with sulfur until eyes teared. Somebody had locked it from the base inside. A cable snipped clean hung from rack. So that's why radio silence. Seattle man swung wrench into a shin of lead thief, cracked like bat on ice. Thief yelped, toppled into runoff channel. Water only knee-deep, but hot enough to scald. Park law enforcement found the two thieves half naked, cooled by river water on Firehole Riverbank. Bear spray residue glistened. In their van parked on a service, officers recovered 30 wallets, 8 cameras, and RFID wristband printer. Their Mayo clone radio silent after-hours tours. Sever fiber junction to kill ranger comms. Weaponized local legends, so victims hesitated during the critical hush. Cart pusher lunged. Film student jammed tripod leg into chest, knocking him backward. I yanked pepper spray can from thief's belt, hosed second attacker. When I replay Beehive's whistle in my headphones, I hear the moment legend met con artistry, and the second. I learned nostalgia is safest under daylight and verified tour permits. They retreated howling toward woods, gear spilling. A wall rack held maintenance wrenches. Seattle man chose a 16-inch multi wrench like a Louisville Slugger. We plotted ambush at the catwalk. He had jet roared somewhere beyond ridge, steam lit by moon. Radio chatter finally flickered through busted speaker and shed someone cursing frequency static. And posted signs. No guides will ever collect your electronics. Report any request. A new audio message now plays every hour. The basin may fall silent, but our security never sleeps. Hand-laid planks creaked. The film student lingered behind, soaking B-roll. Jeff urged us on. Timing's everything. Industrial zip ties bit wrists, but I kept a razor-tip cable release in lens pouch. Dad taught me scouting knots. I'd learned how to carve. 2 quick strokes freed him, then Seattle couple. We stumbled opposite cart tracks until boardwalk ended at a generator shed I'd photographed as a kid. Door padlock looked fresh. I slipped cable release blade into latch gap. Popped hasp. He raised a handheld thermal camera, then waved to someone unseen. A second figure answered, pushing a two-wheel cart piled with backpacks. The red camera dangled from a strap. My wrist tag flashed red once, maybe Nifty check. If the basin goes silent tonight, step back, he said, half grin, or you might follow him. Jeff killed his radio, explaining feedback in the caldera, messes with ranger frequencies. From Wood's lantern beam sliced fog, the thieves returning with heavier haul. The twilight bled indigo. Steam vents glowed like veil cloth over orange coals. Steam drifted from roof vents, making the shadows breathe. A padlocked chain link gate stood open. Jeff waited with three others, a Seattle couple in Arc'teryx and a film student lugging RED camera. All wore orange Tyvek wrist tags. Jeff slipped one over my wrist. Tiny RFID coil glinted. While scouting angles, I overheard two rangers talking near the prediction chalkboard. One complained Twilight Basin walks are overbooked again. The older ranger shook his head. Reservations closed weeks ago, but the younger one, name tag JEFF, glanced around and said, "If you're solo and quick on your feet, meet me at the back utility gate, 1915 sharp." I felt the teen knee lean forward. Dad loved these scraps of ranger folklore. He lowered his voice. "No phones, whiteout kills, GPS, and ruins the light." He scribbled an arrow on my park map ending at an unmarked shed behind the in-service lane. The phrase snapped me back to a brochure Dad once kept. A small group dusk tour where a research ranger led visitors along the off-limits service deck. Timing eruption shadows for photos, Dad never scored tickets. The park felt endless and safe, and I figured it would never change until life tugged us to Ohio after the 1988 fires scorched Mom's job away. I hadn't been back since. This April, a UX workshop in Bozeman ended midday, leaving me a rental Jeep, clear roads, and 3 unscheduled hours. I planned a single eruption, one selfie, then a sprint north before dusk iced the passes. Nostalgia flared. I asked if the program had room for walk-ins. Phones banned sounded odd, but backcountry ranger walks often ban bright screens. And Jeff's uniform looked legit. NPS patches, radio mic, bear spray canister. Old Faithful blew at 1837. The crowd cheered. iPads bloomed, and I tried to imagine the same cone under purple twilight with only a handful of people. He led us down a snow-damp service path onto a secondary boardwalk, normally blocked by a hinged rail. 5 minutes in, Jeff stopped beside a low pumice mound spewing 195-degree mist. The Seattle woman laughed nervously. Her partner fiddled with GoPro settings. We continued deeper until the main lights of the inn vanished behind ridges. A sulfur gust blinded. When steam cleared, Jeff was gone. Footsteps thumped ahead. A figure in ranger coat strode into the LED glow, but the shoulder patch was wrong. Plain white spiral, not arrowhead. Seattle man stepped forward, protesting. Spiral patch ranger lifted bear spray can and hosed his face, point blank. Orange fog billowed. Spiral patch barked. Ransacked fast. Next eruption window 6. I crawled to film student, also cuffed, gasping. Inside, red emergency light revealed retired telemetry equipment and a fiber spool labeled wireless backbone. Steam throbbed, basin settling into post-sun hush. Somewhere a vent hissed softer than nothing. Pure, unnerving stillness. Keeper legend hush. First pair stepped onto catwalk. I triggered camera flash full power, strobe-seared night, burning silhouette on retina. The lull ended, distant rumble swelled. Old Faithful's neighbor, Beehive Geyser, screamed. We herded victims to main boardwalk, flagged a night patrol ranger. The real Rangers shredded every unnumbered wrist tag by dawn patched fiber. Added body cams to twilight walks. Dad's Polaroid hangs above my monitor. Next to the crumpled wrist tag whose red LED finally died on the drive back to Bozeman